Fully half of the citizens have a chronic disorder such as high blood pressure or diabetes. Anxiety amongst young people is growing rapidly. Asthma and autoimmune diseases are on the rise, as are addictions. Depression is rising. Youth suicide is rising. All is not well.
Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump, there were two traumatized people fighting to govern a traumatized world.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And these are the people that our society rewards with power. Our schools are full of kids with learning difficulties, mental health issues that are trauma-based, but the average teacher never gets a single lecture on trauma. We need trauma-informed medical care, trauma-informed education. If we had a trauma-informed society, we'd have a society that looks much more compassionate.
They have asked to meet with you, Prime Minister. Medical experts, top scientists, doctors, nurses, parents, grandparents, intelligent, loving, concerned citizens. Why won't you sit with them? If you are so convinced of your own reasons for the mandates, sit down and walk the leaders of a group of 2.3 million protesters across the country who represent many millions more across the nation and explain it to them. And ask them to listen with open hearts and minds, and then reciprocate. Listen to what they have to say with a mind open to hearing things that might go against the ideas you are entrenched in. Maybe there are solutions that could bring Canadians together right now that you have not considered.
The way our society is structured right now is like a pyramid. Here is a pyramid that I made myself out of sugar tubes. And it represents the power structures that come from the ability to force, to amass wealth, to kill, to harm, to dominate. And this is the type of social structure that's been in existence all over the world for recorded history, okay? The more powerful, brutal, violent people take all the stuff, they get to the top, they get power, wealth, and status, and the people at the bottom end up growing the grain to feed the monarchs, and they starve and they're miserable. And every society has pretty much been that way. Powerful elite at the top, miserable working poor at the bottom. And the sad thing is that when you go to a revolution to overthrow it, which has happened all over the world in many places, many times, you get this awful thing where it just creates another pyramid. So when I was...
Now, who could represent such a world better than you, Prime Minister? We are very glad that at the beginning of this meeting, you are talking to us to represent also a new, open Canada. I want to use this opportunity also to thank our Canadian constituency, which always has been a very loyal, very much engaged constituency here at Sero. But now, I think with you, together with our constituents, Prime Minister, we can make sure that in the future, we strengthen the cooperation even more with your country. Prime Minister, we are very much looking forward to listen to you, and actually the discussion will be moderated by my friend Farid. So we will have some exciting, interesting moments. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Schwab, for your warm welcome and for bringing this impressive group together.
Could the member please name which cabinet ministers are on board with the WEF's agenda? My concern is the deputy.
Order. I know that the member was in a really good question there, but the audio is really bad and the video is really bad as well. And I apologize. I don't know if the member. Okay.
Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young nobles of the world economic forum.
And that's true in Argentina.
This is a grassroots movement, and others will fill their roles. Others have already filled their roles. People want a hero to rally around. There is no single person who leads this freedom convoy. This is ordinary Canadians who are asserting their rights. I'm certainly not a hero. I'm simply a father. The mainstream media has portrayed us as anti-government. I read that this morning on the mainstream media. Well, I've been pleading with the official Canadian government to talk and read our plan, because the only plan that they have is violence. And the institution of a Chinese-style social credit score system, the entire federal government, all of the members of parliament at the federal level should be ashamed of themselves. They have failed us badly. But instead, they're going to give themselves a third pay raise throughout this pandemic, while other people are going to lose everything.
But what's very interesting to me is how quickly a lawsuit against the truck convoy was able to get into a courtroom within the very first few days of us arriving. But yet, we can't even get a meeting with the federal government of Canada. I've not yet seen one matter before the Supreme Court of Canada in 2 years. Not one. But a lawsuit by a young person in the city made it into a courtroom overnight. I do know there are legal challenges being worked on, but for a judge, they can't. Their ability to make a ruling only exists in the courtroom, and it only comes into when it comes into the courtroom, then they can get involved and they can make decisions. But until it arrives inside their room, there's really nothing that they can do until that happens.
As a movement, we have chosen to peacefully withdraw from the streets of Ottawa. There is nothing to be gained by being brutalized by police. We will simply regroup as a grassroots movement. If the police can tame their insatiable need for violence and remove the barriers preventing us from actually leaving, we will peacefully withdraw starting today.
This is not about vaccine, this is not about science, this is not about your health. This is a fight between, look at that. This is a fight between tyranny and freedom. And we choose freedom. The last time that I saw the bottom here, I'm gonna show the bottom here. The last time that I see, it was 11 years ago, peaceful protest against Islamic regime in Tehran. I am seeing it again in Toronto. Unbelievable. Still, I am saying that they are not as brutal as Islamic regime talks, but it's a sad day.
Let's catch up. Move. We're gonna catch up on that line next to 22. Here. Hey, you don't have to hit him like that. Don't do it. Don't be selfish.
Hey, you don't have to hit him like that. Please. Please. So they all can have peace and love and happiness. Peace, love, happiness. Amen. Peace, love, happiness. Peace. You guys are breaking my heart. This is peace, love, and happiness. Peace. We are at peace with the protest. We are at peace with the protest. Oh, the Lord! Here comes the horses. Stand up! Oh my gosh! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Look what you did! Look what you did to her!
Yeah, we heard the statement from the police chief earlier, citing concerns about misinformation, disinformation circulating on social media. How would you describe, what you're seeing online versus the reality there on the ground?
Yeah, there were some people alleging police brutality. I didn't see that. I did see people absolutely getting hit by batons and some rough arrests. Those were people who did not move back as the police line advanced. Sometimes they were on their knees, begging with officers, some veterans saying, please don't do this. But if you did not move when they told you to move, that was the fate that you suffered. There was no gas used. Nobody was shot. There was not mass arrests at gunpoints, despite what a New York Times headline appeared to report. And most importantly, no one died because there was a false report on American news that a woman was trampled by a horse yesterday. That did not happen. That was confirmed by both police and EMS. But the police chief did talk today about the problem they've had with misinformation and disinformation. This is what he had to say.
One of the tactics that the protesters and demonstrators are using is misinformation, information that is inaccurate, information that misleads the public. We're actively tweeting and providing information out through social media and other media mechanisms in order to be able to try and get accurate, factual information around what is going on within the protest.
When someone held up their arms to protect against a baton being swung at their head, the Ottawa police claimed that their weapon was being reached for. Now they are claiming that not a single protester was trampled. I saw it myself. I was 10 feet away.
A handle, why it was important for you to be there and stand in the front line?
Trying to open up their eyes. We're doing this for them, their children, their mothers and fathers. There are mothers and fathers in nursing homes dying by themselves. Why? You know how many people that I've seen in these last 2 weeks that said, thank you. Thank you for stepping up.
You unify people by finding solutions together, not by vilifying those who say there is a better way. What we need right now from our leadership is unification, and that requires being willing to see, recognize, and hear from the people sitting out in the cold at your door. And if you think that there is no sense, no intelligence, and no humanity in those people, please listen to Needle Points by Norman Deutsch, a vaccinated psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who has painstakingly and comprehensively laid out why these protesters are not unreasonable or unjustified and having great concern over the current state of vaccination affairs.
So when you look at informed consent, it's a two-part formula. A doctor must give you the information. It is your responsibility as a patient to then consent when you're given the risks. How can anyone be given the risks when the data is not available yet, or they're suppressing it? Why aren't they talking to scientists? Why are they suppressing?
Follow-up, over 25,000 deaths on the VAERS reports in North America, over 30,000 if you look at the European ones. We all think that's pretty alarming. If you actually go through and read each story, many deaths occur within 48 hours of being administered. How can this be forced on a Canadian public?
I've been on VAERS personally myself. I've looked at the data, I've run the filters. And what I'm aware of is that there have been more deaths since the COVID-19 vaccines have come out
than in the previous 30 years of all vaccine reported injuries on that website. So, you know, this is about bodily autonomy and about freedom to choose. And coercion, actually going back to informed consent, I do know that it's actually a form of assault. It's in the Criminal Code of Canada that if you use coercion to coerce a patient into undergoing a medical procedure they don't want, it's criminal assault. But yet you're being told it's safe and effective. Well, let's hear from the scientists. Let's hear what they all have to say, not the ones that just agree with you, Mr. Trudeau. Okay, let's hear from all of them. We want a public debate. We want the nation to see all of the science, and we want it to stop being suppressed. We want the College of Physicians to stay in their lane and stop threatening physicians. They're threatening physicians to take away their license if they actually treat anything other than with vaccinations. This cannot be allowed to continue.
But it certainly was a much more aggressive presence, and it was much more rapid. They cleared all of Wellington Street and the side streets in a day in something that experts thought might take as long as a week to do.
People think Canadians can do who aren't in Ottawa to help plead your cause at this juncture?
I would, the most meaningful thing people can do is learn the Charter of Rights backwards and forwards. Understand what's inside it. And if you don't have a copy, Google it or look inside your passport. I'm pretty sure it's written on the inside. Start exercising your charter rights.
You got a group of people becoming enlightened, and they're below everyone else. They're lower than the rest of the pyramid. They are not coming in and winning. But from the bottom up, they are slowly dissolving the power structure. And the people who dissolve first, who give up the old way of being first, are the ones who have the least to lose. So they're on the bottom. They just absorb the people around them because they are made of inclusion and love. There is no conquering in this. The pool doesn't destroy the pyramid, it includes it. And it makes it into something clear and fluid and sweet. And the people at the very top of the pyramid are the last ones to know what is going to happen. This will not be a revolution, this transformation. It will be a dissolution. It will be an inclusion. And how do we bring it about? We dissolve the rigid power structures, the fear-based, needy, hungry, violent parts of ourselves. We dissolve that into the sweetness. And we do it by reaching inward to the heart instead of obeying the ego. In Asia, they say the mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. And the heart is the master that the mind should be serving.
Every human being is a true, genuine, authentic self. And the trauma is that disconnection from it, and the healing is the reconnection with it. Why do we get disconnected? Because it's too painful to be ourselves.